Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. As you can tell from the title up there, I'm continuing to delve into the episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond, one of my favorite sitcoms from my adolescence, episode by episode. Now we're on episode 16 of season 5, Fairies. Oh, this is going to be a fun one to talk about. The twins, Michael and Jeffrey, are in a school play playing fairies. Oh boy, you know Frank's going to have fun with that. Before I get too far into it, just a reminder, if you want to support the channel, both the Patreon and PayPal links are down below. If you wanted to continuously support the channel, you can go the Patreon route. You'll gain access to videos early, and you'll also be able to suggest topics for future videos, such as reviews like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Thank you, John, for that. Which, by the way, reviews of the sequels are going to be coming pretty soon. I just got to sit down and watch them. And I like everything, got to take time to do it. And if you just want to do a one-off support and a one-off review request, you could always go to PayPal route. Either way, your support is appreciated. This is an Aaron Korsh written episode. And this is another one of those ones I saw in syndication. And like a couple of the other ones, the first time I saw it, or at least parts of it, was in the first 6 years. I don't want to say documentary, but it's a clip show that they did at the end of season 6, which is on the DVD as a supplemental feature. I think I've mentioned a couple times before. I still have not decided if that's going to be at the beginning of season 6 or the end of season 6. But by the time it goes live, you'll know. Now, fun thing is that this episode debuted on my father's birthday that year, February 19th, 2001. That would have been his 42nd birthday, if I remember right. Now, this episode begins, like how a lot of episodes start, with Ray and Deborah having a conversation, and Ray forgot he promised Deborah he was going to do something. In this case, he forgot that he was going to go pick up the twins, and watching him, it's like Raymond. It's paint by number stuff, but it's a little funny to set it up. It's a nice little scene, but in syndication, this scene is cut off, and it goes straight to him coming home with the twins, which I could see why they cut that out in syndication. Out of all the moments, I could definitely see. Sorry if there's a little lag right now, because another program is just opening up. I don't know why this thing is popping up. This computer's been on for at least 5 to 10 minutes already. Everything that was going to auto-pop up should have auto-popped up by now. Now, the twins come in. They got their wings on. They're like, ah! Running around. Now, as Ray gets home, Frank and Robert are already there. They're sitting on the couches in the chair, watching the game. And Robert, is going to be a little bit more open about it. I mean, we already had that episode a season ago where everybody thought he was gay, and we found out some stuff that he used to do with Marie, like, they sung songs together from musicals, because as we know, Marie is a big musical buff, which that's going to tie into something in this episode, so keep that there. And, of course, he could dance and all those other stuff, so he's going to be a bit more open-minded there, whereas Frank is a little bit more traditionalist when it comes to these gender roles, as we've seen, and that's going to play into most of the jokes related to him here. Now, with that, like I mentioned that the Barones seem to be more conservative than, say, Deborah is, with Ray and Robert being a little bit more open-minded with stuff, and then Marie being the next level, and then Frank being the starch traditionalist in most things. And that's how it goes here. However, here, it's less conservative versus liberal and more open-mindedness versus closed-mindedness, or if you really want to go to an extreme, slight bigotry on Frank's part. They never go to that same level, but there are a couple lines that is like, yeah, you can say he is being a little bit there. I mean, we saw in that episode I just cited where they thought that Robert might be gay, how Frank would react, and that it does bring up a little bit, like the first thing he says when he sees the twins and they run upstairs, he looks at Ray and goes, "What are you doing to these kids?" And then when he finds out that they're in a play, he's like, "Get them out of there, get them into sports." Which tells you all you need to know about how Frank is going to react to this. That he feels that boys, even at that age, they should be doing nothing but sports. Which goes into one thing I really hate with parents. It's like, I get it how when they're super young you want to try to see what their interests are. But once they get to a certain age where they can decide what their interests are for themselves, you should be not trying to force them to do what you want them to do, and just let them do what they want to do. Like, if they want to play sports, let them play sports. If they want to be more in the arts, let them be in the arts. They want to be in band, be in band. They want to be like me and be in JROTC, let them be in JROTC. If they just want to sit there and read a book, let them read. Nothing wrong with letting them read a book, unless it's something like the Anarchist Cookbook. And I think the title of that one speaks for itself. Now, Frank, he just seems to be the kind that sports. I will give him some credit with it that he is not 100% closed-minded in that regard, because he does go tennis even, which, of course, for the fact he says it like that makes me think, are you trying to imply something about tennis there, Frank? A little food for thought with that. Now, Marie just loves the fact that the twins are in the play. Of course, Frank even hates it, the fact that they were assigned by the teacher and that everyone in their class is in the play. Marie loves it. Oh, they're going to be so cute. And it goes into the whole thing about homosexuality conversation. As we already know from the pilot episode, Frank thinks one of the twins has homosexual tendencies, which, just the way that's worded, it's like, what exactly does that mean, Frank? Like, seriously, what does it mean when you say that somebody, especially a little kid who probably doesn't even know what their orientation is, or if it's there, it's like very, very subtle to where they don't even realize it. What does that even mean? You're trying to say that they're a little bit more flamboyant? Because flamboyancy and being gay do not run side and side. I mean, I'm going to say I do know someone that's gay that is a little flamboyant, but even if they were straight, I could still see them being flamboyant. And then I know someone's going to say Liberace, which, yeah, fair enough. Part of that probably was also a stage persona. I mean, Ric Flair was flamboyant. And look at how many women he bedded. Now, of course, I also know gay people who are not flamboyant. So, like I said, it doesn't go hand in hand. There's going to be ones that are and ones that aren't. So if it's that, it's like Frank really going into his old school mentality there. Now, they go back and forth arguing about it. About how even if the twins are gay, it's not going to be the end of the world. And there's one exchange. I just love this. I remember this was in the episode, but I forgot how funny this line was. Where they're like, hey, them being in the play is not going to turn them gay. And then Frank's like, well, it's not going to make them Teamsters. That's not the line. It's Marie's response to that line. Without batting an eye, she's looking through her magazine. And she's like, I'm sure there are gay Teamsters. I was watching this on the bike at the gym, and I couldn't help but bust out laughing out loud when I heard that, because I'm like, oh yeah, that is true. I'm sure there are gay Teamsters. I'm sure there's people who are of any sexual orientation out there playing the field, being like, hey there, you want to see my wings? I'm trying to tie back in. And of course, that makes Frank mad. And Marie does point out something good, that the twins being gay is not the worst thing that could happen. Them turning out to be exact duplicates of Frank is the worst thing that could happen. And the thing there is that it's going to be magnified. If you see one bigoted asshole walk across the room, that's one thing. But if you see the same bigotry right behind him and it looks identical, you're not going to be like, oh, I didn't know how much of an asshole that guy was until I saw it again. Now in this, they do get back at Frank because it turns out he's wearing perfume in this scene. I mean, he thought he was wearing aftershave, but he accidentally put on Marie's Jean Naté, and they really get at him. Robert's the one that really does that line. I'm not going to spoil it, but it is a Southern colloquialism. Now, to tie back into the whole musical thing, we find out that in addition to singing songs with Marie, at one point, Robert was in choir, so he had more musical aspirations than just the drums. And he was basso profundo. For those of you who don't know what basso profundo is, it's a very, very low bass part in singing, usually choir. And if you want a good example, I'm probably going to butcher his name because I don't have it on notes. Thrall Ravencroft, the voice, the original voice of Tony the Tiger, and the one who sang the first rendition of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, was a basso profundo. And if you want more examples of it, Google basso profundo and listen to those deep ones. And of course we get Brad Garrett as Robert's rendition of Old Man River. And it's actually pretty good. And of course it just makes Frank mad. We find out the reason that Robert no longer did choir was because of Frank. Typical stuff where even if you try to do something, he'll try to figure out a way for you to not do it. He told Robert people were making fun of him and it was just him. As he puts it, I represent the community. Frank. He deserves a mega putazo with a hammer for that. But of course, the justice that we get about him getting teased about wearing perfume Total vindication there. Now, everyone's fine with the twins doing this, but then Ray starts to show a little bit of his inner Frank when he finds out that the twins were volunteered for that. Now, originally, the way it was put out, it sounded like the parts were assigned. Like the teacher was like, all right, Jeremy, you're going to be the lion. John, you're going to be the prince. Michael, Jeffrey, you're going to be the magical fairies. But then we find out that Deborah's the one that signed up. And they could have been the tape recorder, too. And when Ray finds out, he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And, of course, Deborah's like, really? You're just like your dad. And, of course, she puts it perfectly. You are worse than your dad. At least he's up front with it. You are embarrassed that your sons are playing fairies. As Robert puts it, in that regard, Ray got the moron gene from Frank. Now, with that, in one of the blooper reels, he says it backwards, which I just love it, because Brad Garrett catches himself afterwards, and he's like, you got the gene moron. Like, wait a minute. It's still one of those ones that's like, the gene moron. In the audience, they're like, oh, that actually would have been funnier if he said it that way, but you can see why they didn't put it in there. You got the moron gene, and it's right. And this leads to another little fight moment between Ray and Deborah, which I'm not going to cover all of it, but it's typical, and you can definitely see Ray trying to go in that direction because of his whole irritation with everything. And he tries to switch things up by getting them recast as the Mighty Boulder. As Deborah puts it, you made them scenery. And then, when he tries to undo it, the teacher doesn't want to do it. So now, Ray has to go hands-on with the twins and teach them how to actually play fairies. Because the thing is, they're not actually playing fairies originally. They're doing like how we saw them. They're just running out there and all that, super hyper, super into it, but not understanding the subtle nuances of how to play the fairies for the play, where you're supposed to be like, well, we're flying. And Ray trying to do that with the twins, you can see he has no patience for it. At least at first. And it's one of those things you're like, this is what happens when you don't spend as much time with your twins as you should, as we see in a lot of the other episodes, when you actually have to go hands-on and talk to your kids and spend time with them and try to teach them. It fails. Now, there are going to be times where Ray does connect with them, like, I forget which one of the twins it is, but in a future season, he actually does connect with one of them when he tries to stay home, and that's an episode I actually saw the night it premiered, so we're talking about that. I believe that's season 8, if I remember right. Because season 7 is, I believe, the one with the wedding. So yeah, season 8. Now, he does get into them, and this is the scene that's in that best of. You know, like, you're going to get up there and you're the worst fairies of the play. I've seen the other fairies, boys. They put you away. Which is true. They do put them away. And he does try to get them down, you know, put the music on, and we're flying, doing subtle things. And what makes this joke is that when they're in the middle of it, we're flying, the camera's following them, it pans back to the door when they're coming around, and Frank's walking in. And he's looking at him like, oh no. The look that you imagine Frank would give him based on what we heard he did earlier in the episode. And Peter Boyle sells this well, just the way he's looking at him, shaking his head. And, of course, Ray Romano holds up his side of it because he's looking at him. Then he's like, in a defiant look, like, who cares? I'm dancing to this type of music with my twins. And then they go through it, go around him, and he's like, oh, my God. And as he's going across the street, he's like, Marie, I hope you're happy. I'm sure she would be. Because Raymond's showing some of his inner sensitivity. Because as Andy put it, that's what the ladies like, to a certain extent. Now, all this work, you think it's going to pay off? Well, it pays off for us, the audience, in a comedic sense, but not for the people inside. Because the twins forget all this, and they just do what they were going to do, and they ruined the play. And the only person from the Barones who's enjoying this is Frank, because he loves watching it like a car wreck. And the teacher trying to say everything, and Ray, like, behind the curtain, like, oh my God, it didn't work. But it's the perfect ending for this episode. It would have been nice if it went off without a hitch. But I think the twins just forgetting all this and then just ruining the play makes it work even more. And it's the perfect ending for this episode. There's not really much trivia to go over. The only big one is the fact that both of Ray's real-life sons appear in the cast. One of them plays a soldier, and the other one is the boy in the lion outfit that Ray tells, hey, we're on in a minute here. It's a nice little thing there. He's not the only one of Ray's real life kids that are going to end up in here. His real life daughter Alexandra actually ends up playing one of Allie's friends in a later episode. And yes, that is the daughter whose mother is the cookie lady, who becomes Ray's arch nemesis, as he puts it. And also, apparently the song that they're dancing to is the Midsummer Night's Dream Scherzo movement by Felix. I'm probably going to butcher this last name because it looks German. Mendelssohn. And it's a nice little music to dance to for this type of play. And overall, it's a pretty fun episode. Definitely one I recommend watching from this season. Definitely one that I always watch, and it's going to definitely go on the VHS list once I get to the end of that. If you got Peacock, definitely worth one or two watches. And that's really all I got to say about this one. Now, the next episode, give my thing a moment. Now, I've mentioned this episode coming up a couple times. No, this is not the rant one. This is going to be one that is going to play off of the beginning of this season. And we're going to see the end of one ship, and that is going to be the end of... I'm trying to figure out how to call this ship. Okay, how about this? Steberto! Stefania returns. And she's trying to court Robert some more. And this is going to end in a beautiful dumpster fire. Till next time, guys.